So we are starting off tonight with Round Tone from 2003, which is a pretty, I would have to imagine, well-known movie, in which these six people run amok of three sort of inbred, mutated hillbilly folk in the deep forests of West Virginia. And it's honestly, the plot-wise, it's somewhat bare bones. These people meet up accidentally with a car crash. Then they go try to find help, and boom, they get attacked by these, well, cannibalistic hillbilly people. And for the rest of the movie, they're just trying to survive as best as they can. Plot-wise, it's not like it's a very deep movie, but I've always found it a consistently enjoyable movie. And I think that generally, were it not for like the the somewhat absurd amount of sequels the series has, the first movie, well, not amazing. I think it's pretty good. But before I talk about some of my favorite things in this movie, what do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I like this one too. Like I said, it's not like an amazing movie, but it's really enjoyable. It does what it needs to do. There's a lot of things this movie does right, I think. Even though nothing spectacular, but there's a lot of things it does right. Probably one of the biggest things it does right is, and this is something I really appreciate, is that it's one of those movies that knows its runtime. It's short and sweet. I don't even think this movie really goes much further than 75 minutes. It's so short. But it's one of those movies that doesn't need to be any longer. I mean, you feel like you've watched a full movie by the time you're done, and it never had really any dry spots or, any... You're not, stuck in 10 to 20 minutes of just boring... whatever it is, boring dialogue, whatever it is. It's a movie that just keeps on moving until it's done.
I mean, if you want an action-packed horror movie, this is a good choice.
Yeah, definitely.
One of my, I guess, if I had to say my favorite scene in the movie, is when these characters are sort of looking through the house. They just stumble upon it. They each find something somewhat creepy. A room full of keys and dolls and such. Looks what looks like to be a body in a bathtub. Then the three guys come home, but before they can leave, they get there, so they have to hide. And while they're hiding, these three inbred, terrifying individuals are sort of chopping up a friend of theirs, basically right in front of them. I mean, two other people can see, two of them can't really see what's going on, and as an audience, we don't really see that much either. But you just know what's going on is this, ungodly, terrifying scene, and you can tell, as soon as they try to leave, once the people are asleep. The tension in that scene, by the way, is amazing. But once they try to leave, you can see how sort of traumatized that made at least that one woman.
Yeah, there's some decent suspense and tension in this movie. I agree with that. In fact, just from that scene, there's a few things I guess I'd say about it. Number one, I mean, if I was in that scene, because they kind of stay hidden inside the house while they're chopping up and then eventually going to sleep. So I don't know exactly how long they're in there, but it feels like they've been in there for at least an hour, maybe longer. And I mean, if that was me, I wouldn't be able to stay quiet that long. I'd have farted or something. But just before they go into that house, there's the one woman's complaining that she's got to go to the bathroom, and I'm thinking, hello, you're in the fucking woods. Just piss on the ground.
Although that did lead to that beautiful line, I think this is the bathroom.
Yeah.
I mean, and to be fair, that was one messed up house.
Yeah, I mean, the outside is a lot cleaner than the inside.
And actually, now that I think about it, it's worth mentioning that in some ways, this seems like a new age, almost Texas Chainsaw Massacre-like movie. Obviously, I think you can also relate it to The Hills of Eyes. But this movie always felt just a bit more realistic to me than those other movies. And I'm not quite sure what it is. Maybe it's just the fact that I know that West Virginia is an iffy place. Even though this movie was filmed in Canada, on a side note. So if you're from West Virginia, don't be too offended. But this movie always struck me as a somewhat realistic movie aside from maybe the amount of inbred mutations some of those guys have.
What was your favorite kill in the movie? There's a couple that stood out to me.
That is an interesting question. You tell me yours, and I'll try to figure out what mine is.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a toss-up between the axe to the face while they're up in the trees, because there's that scene where you see the top part of the head still sitting up on the axe, but the bottom half, well, not half, mostly everything below is just kind of falling down. That's one of those scenes that's kind of memorable. And I guess the other one, which is a little more quicker, it was the arrow to the eye to that police officer.
Yeah, I was actually going to say it's probably either the death of the police officer, or maybe early on when there's another character who gets shot with some arrows. Mainly because, at least with the first guy, you expect that he's going to get hit. He's running to the car, he's pretty close, he looks like he might make it, but boom, an arrow comes by. Then he gets, I think, hit by 2 more.
You've got a bit of an arrow fetish, because both your deaths involve arrows.
Well, yes. I always did like the idea of archery used as a way to kill someone. And it comes up in some movies every now and again, but I can't think of any movie that focuses primarily on that. But I do enjoy, though, how one of the brothers, I'm assuming the brothers, one of them actually knows archery, so that's nice. I'm assuming living off the land and hunting, be it animals or a human, well, it has its benefits.
Yeah. Someone better watch out if they ever see you in an archery store, then.
I remember doing archery back in school. I was terrible at it, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's one particular line in this movie that really cracks me up every time I see it. Is that line just before they go into the house by Jeremy Sisto, where he says, "I got to remind you of a movie called Deliverance." I mean, you don't even need to really see Deliverance to know why that's fun. I mean, as long as you know what Deliverance is about, that line just always gets me.
On a side note, I've obviously seen this movie multiple times, but I actually forgot who Jeremy's sister was before I started watching it. So, in my opinion, he's easily my favorite character here. Like, the main guy seems somewhat, somewhat hollow through most of the movie. I mean, he's okay, but I feel like he doesn't get a whole lot of character. But Jeremy's sister's character, actually quite a bit of fun. And I guess it's also worth mentioning that most of the characters in the movie seem like pretty decent people. In a lot of slasher movies, you have some stereotypical jocks and some dicks, but most of the people here seem like good people, so that was sort of nice too.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where you truly do kind of root for the good guys. So, well, the supposedly good guys, because I don't see how anyone could see the hillbilly hicks as being the good guys.
Hey, they were protecting the land from the invaders.
yeah.
Maybe if you're an American, you can get.
I mean, speaking of the lead guy, I thought he did all right in the movie. In fact, I was kind of surprised that he didn't get bigger roles as his career moved on. I felt like after doing this movie, I just kind of expected him to blow up a bit more than he did. And he seems to more play smaller roles in movies, I think.
Yeah, I've not seen him in that many things, but I know he was in the movie, I think it came out the same year, called Love Object, which is a very, if you've not seen it, it's very sort of a slow moving but very interesting sort of psychological horror type movie.
Yeah. It feels like his name is a black guy's name. Desmond Harrington, that just sounds like a black guy's name to me. Not that it matters, but it's just one of those things that's just so unusual. I mean, it's like if an
Asian guy's name is named Mike.
Yeah, so, I mean, something like that.
To be honest, I never really thought about it, mainly because I recognized him once I saw him, but it's not like a guy I particularly, like I said, I've seen in many things.
Well, one thing I will say that I didn't really enjoy was the opening to the movie. I mean, the scene's okay, it's just, I think it's the weakest part of the movie. The idea behind it, the rock climbing and that, the situation, it's a decent idea, just for some reason, I don't know, I guess the way it was filmed, it didn't really hit me as good as the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily a great opening, but it's only like maybe 4 minutes long, so it's not like it's not great for long.
Sometimes that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to have the opening not be entirely all that strong, because I have seen a lot of movies where the opening is good and the rest of the movie is just dry, so it's definitely a lot better this way than that way. One other thing is, and this has really been bugging me the last 10 years that movies do this, but this is something that the movie doesn't do, which I think is good. This movie has a post-credit scene, but technically it's only about 10 seconds after the credits start rolling.
I know, it's nice.
Yeah, you don't have to wait long to notice there's a post-credit scene. But there's so many movies now, like over the past 10 years, that have quite often been putting scenes like right at the end of the credits, like after a 5-minute duration of watching names go up on the screen, then they show something, which is really inconvenient, especially when you're at like a theater. I mean, depending on what the movie is, most of the time you get up and you leave once the credits are kind of rolling, and sometimes you're even pressured to get up and leave by people who work at the theater. They're like, come on,
Yeah.
movie's over, get out!
Like when I watched the 2019 Child's Play, I like actually sat there through the whole credits just in case. And like it's like I'm the only one there. You know, everybody else left. It was just awkward as hell.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there, on a side note. I feel like half the time it's not worth staying for. I mean, just look at the Evil Dead remake.
That's the one I was going to mention as well, and I think we actually discussed this when we talked about that movie, but yeah, I heard people talk about this post-credit scene, which is like 4 seconds long. Well, it ended up being 4 seconds long, and it was just Bruce Campbell saying groovy or something. I was like, I am so glad I didn't stay to watch that fucking thing.
You know, I think post-credit scenes have their place, and like I personally don't mind when Marvel movies do it, but that's how I'm a fan of the Marvel movies. But most anybody else, it's generally not necessary.
Yeah. Plus, the actual post-credit scene in this movie, I think, is pretty enjoyable. I think.
Yeah, it's actually worth watching.
Yeah, it's not a long scene or anything, but I like the image, like the outline of the character. You see him standing there in the dark with the axe. It's really good. And the other good thing about the credits is that they have a Breaking Benjamin song playing, so they're one of the best bands out there. They hardly ever write a bad song. Yeah, in fact, that was the first song I ever listened to from them before I even watched this movie, so that's the first song that got me into listening to them. I don't know if you listen to them, but they're a really good group.
I know that they are a band and they had a CD or two, and that's pretty much all I know about them.
Oh, they've got more than a CD or two. They release one like every 2 years. And they're still going strong. They don't even tour internationally, and they have like 6 million likes on Facebook or something.
I listen to some music like that, but not too much.
One other thing. Now, obviously, I mean, it's got Eliza Dushku in the movie, and I know that she's got quite a few fans, obviously, and some guys really, you know, like her look. I mean, she's attractive enough to me, but
Are you more the redhead chick?
no. No, I still preferred Eliza, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but I'm more of that type than the redhead type. Though I do appreciate the redhead really eager to, you know, get that guy's pants off.
She was actually one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, I remember her in another movie somewhere around that time, Cry Wolf. I think she was the main girl in that. But anyways, the thing about Eliza Dushku is that I swear to God, like 90% of her movies or shows that she's in were filmed while she's on a period. I think thankfully in Wrong Turn this doesn't happen, but she just usually always feels like she's got this really bitchy vibe. you just can't shake it. It's like something about her, I don't know. But thankfully in this movie, this is like maybe the only movie or thing I've seen her in where I don't feel that way about her.
Yeah, it's entirely possible I've never actually seen her in another movie. Not to disappoint you.
That's weird, but okay.
Yeah, so Wrong Tone, it's a nice sort of throwback to the simpler days of movies. Like I said, it sort of has a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type vibe. Only controversial opinion coming up, in my opinion, it's about the movie. And like I said, I've always enjoyed this one. It's not too complicated. You can just put it on and have a good time. On a side note, I sort of wonder if this movie had anything to do with the Hills of Ice remake coming out 3 years later, since it has a somewhat similar feel to it. And I know it's a good movie. It's worth watching. It's a shame that it has I think 5 sequels, and it's good stuff. So I'm going to throw this one an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, boy.
For Snizzle.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10 as well. It's very enjoyable. It does a lot of things right. Yeah, it's like I said, there's 5 sequels to this one, and not a single one comes close to how good this one is. It's been a while since I've seen the other ones, but in fact, I don't think I've even seen part 2 since it came out. Even though I think some people sort of still enjoy that second one, I know it's definitely not as good as this first one. Anyways, yeah, 8 out of 10, that's my score. If there's one thing to learn from the movie...
Don't go to West Virginia.
Well, that too, but maybe for all the youngsters out there, make sure at school, in your PE class, you practice your gymnastics, because you may one day find yourself dodging hillbilly cannibals in the trees.
And you may have to jump from a watchtower.
Yeah, so get on that.
I'll be screwed on a side note, but...